Okay, so straight away we'll start the things off now. Okay, it is 11:05 already. Okay, so just to make a quick recall of the things that what we have gone through in the previous lecture. Okay, we have been going through some of the important topics. Okay, without which the university question paper doesn't comes out. And in the last class, in the same way, we have covered an important topic. Okay, and the highly weighted topic called as what the circuit satisfiability test from unit number 4 itself. Okay, and in that we have already gone through the MPI program that how the MPI program is being written for the particular problem statement. Okay, and initially we have discussed that what basically is the circuit satisfiability test. We have been going through that. Okay, continuously we have repeated the same things again and again in that lecture also. So this is the circuit. Okay, and I've already taught you that how to return, how to write the answer paper of the parallel computing. Okay, if there are something tedious diagrams or tedious jobs or the tasks that has to be written, then you have to cut them off smartly. Okay, so in that case there is no need to draw the complete circuit. Simply randomly draw a circuit. Okay, initial 2 3 circuits, staying again drawing the n number of lines and only draw the last circuit. So the circuit as connected, and write on the statement that we are assuming this particular circuit which is having got the 16 total inputs. Okay, so the problem statement says that we have to, what we are doing basically, there are total 16 input lines. Okay, which are going to produce possible 2 raised to the power 16 outputs. That means 65,536 outputs are possible. Okay, and amongst the 65,536 possible outputs, we are identifying only those inputs which are satisfying the circuit. And what is the definition of satisfying the circuit? That any 16-bit combination which gives the final output as 1 is said to be a satisfied circuit or a satisfied input. Okay, now out of the 65,436 combinations, there might be 20,000 possible combinations. There might be again only 2 combination, might be 20 combinations, might be only 50 combinations. n number of combinations, मतलब ऐसे कितने भी combinations हो सकते हैं जो वो सर्किट को satisfy करेंगे. Okay, now based on that, we have written a parallel program, simple MPI and a C program. Okay, which is there on your screen. Okay, I'm just going to make it a bit large so that it will be visible to you, because I'm operating on a share screen basis over here. Right, so this is the program what we have already been gone through. Okay, it is visible onto your screen. Okay, and it is available in the notes as well. So simple program. Okay, and then followed by a function call. Okay, for the 16-bit input which we are giving to the digital circuit. And based on that, whatever the combinations are there, we are writing down and executing the program. So in the same way, okay, when we are done with the program writing part, there are 2 phases. Okay, that has to be there. The first phase is the program compilation. Second phase is the program execution. So compilation is being done by using the commands. Okay, that mpicc -0 sat1. Sat1 is the any file name which would be given as per that of the choice of the programmer. Okay, आप लोग कोई भी फाइल नेम दे सकते हो यहाँ पे as that of your choice, followed by the actual file name, that is the sat1.c. .c is basically sat1.c means that it is the actual file name where the program is being written. Right. In the same way, okay, there is again one more command, that is to execute a program, running a MPI program, and in that we are having what the MPI run. Okay, space -np. NP stands for what, number of processes, followed by sat1. Sat1 is the executable file which we are mentioning while by the time of what the program compilation. This is where it is. Okay, so just want to show you. Okay, so this is the executable file. Okay, which we are mentioning, that whatever the file that is producing a compiled code, it is being stored into this executable file. Okay, in the same way, after that we are executing the program, running the MPI programs by mentioning the number of processes. Now here the power is being given, the MPI has given all the powers to the programmers. Okay, that as per that of their choice, they can create a number of processes in the memory. So this is one of the example when we are creating only one process, all the processes are executed, all the combinations are identified. Here all the combinations are identified. These जितने भी 16-bit combinations are being identified by that single process. Okay, So this is the first thing. Okay, and again, when the number of processes will get increased. Okay, so this is where we are getting again two different types of processes, identifying the combinations. That is the first process of process. That is the first set of process of 0, and second is the set of process as 1. So again, we are getting again here two types of processes identifying the combination. Matlab, that means, okay, here the author is being assuming that out of 65,436 combinations, there are only 9 processes, let us say, okay, which are satisfying the combination. So out of that, 3 of the combinations are identified by process 0, and rest of the 6 process combinations have been identified by the process 1. ये जो है 0 और 1 जो है, it is representing the process ID. Okay, and initially we have talked that initially we have discussed that each and every process is being identified by what their IDs, which is unique in nature. That means no two processes have the same IDs, right? So this is what we have gone through. Again, you can increase the number of processes as per that of your choice, and you are getting the different sort of results. So this is what perhaps it is called as what the circuit satisfiability test, is what we have discussed in the last class. Now we are just moving ahead into the unit number 4. Okay, and we are covering very important topics. Okay, so again, the next one we are going to start with what the parallel programming languages. Okay, I guess the second part of the unit number 4 itself. Okay, now in the second part there are 4 different types of parallel programming language which is being mentioned in your syllabus, and out of these 4 different types of languages, okay, first we are going to study the Fortran 90 parallel programming language. Now these are those programming languages which can be used, or which are uh, previously used, or they might be in current ongoingly used by the developers in order to write the program. So likewise, the MPI is the latest parallel programming language. Okay, because there is no any other programming language established after that when any of the programmer wants to implement a parallel programming. So the first parallel programming language which have been actually introduced in order to write the parallel program, it is the Fortran 90. Okay, so you might have heard about this particular language, Fortran 90. It is the old parallel programming language which is being used by the parallel programmer in order to write the parallel programs. Likewise, just like we have gone through the MPI, which is the latest one, this one is the first parallel programming language, Fortran 90. Now, the reason behind calling it as Fortran is the name of the language, and initially before the Fortran 90, it is supposed to called as what the Fortran 77. Okay, here it is written in the notes. It is called as what the Fortran 77. Now Fortran 77. Now what is the difference between 77 and 90? Okay, the first version is Fortran 77, and the later version is Fortran 90. So 77 means the programming language is able to execute 77 different types of instructions. Okay, 77 different types of instructions. Okay, in the programming by using the programming language, but remaining again 13 more instructions have been added in the Fortran 90, okay, to make it 90. So initially when the Fortran 77 was established, the programming languages would be executing only 77 set of instructions. Now later it was introduced a newer version in launch, wherein we are having the 90 set of instructions. That is, it is called as, that is the reason it is called as the Fortran 90. Okay, students, you are not supposed to talk when you are having. Okay. Yes, if you're not getting anything, you can talk to me. Just don't interrupt me when the lecture is just been going on, right? So yes. Okay, Saurav. Okay, don't talk. Saurav. Saurav Mukherjee.
No exam pass kar asan nahi karte.
Saurav Mukherjee, don't talk.
Seat put desh nahi seat.
Hello. Okay. So this is the Fortran language, of the first parallel programming language which was introduced. There is a model which is given for the programmer. So basically, the model is as shown in the diagram for the Fortran 90 parallel programming language. Okay, and in that we are having the 2 different types of the ALUs. Okay, you are already aware about what the ALU is. Okay, and there is a shared memory. Okay, or you can call it as a shared space or shared memory. Okay, to which the ALUs are connected. Okay, and to this we are again having the control processors connected. Okay, so this is the model. So basically the thing is that the Fortran 90 is genuinely working on the shared memory, while the MPI programming language is working on the distributed memory. That is the difference in between these two programming languages, right? So this is the general model. And again, there are two different types of processors which is mentioned over here, like the scalar ALU, and the vector ALU. ALU means it is nothing but a processor, right? So the scalar ALU is the arithmetic logical unit which is executing the simpler tasks. Likewise, if I could take a, if I could say an instruction that is to be executed, printf, okay, my name is this, that is the scalar instruction. But if I am having any sort of instruction that is to be executed, like c is equal to a plus b divided by d, okay, multiplied by f, and again divided by x. Okay, if I could talk about this particular instruction, which is complicated in nature, okay, it is called as what the vector instructions. So the scalar instructions are being executed by the scalar ALUs, and the vector instructions are being executed by the vector ALUs, right? So scalar means you can take into your mind that scalar means simpler instructions, and the vector means the complicated or the uh, heavy instructions that have been executed by the vector ALU. So obviously, the processing time for the scalar ALU is always going to be on the lower side Q, because the instructions are the less complicated in nature, and they'll get executed, okay, within very short period of time span. And in the same way, vector instructions are those instructions which are bulkier in nature, heavier in nature, so they are taking some more amount of time for the execution. So this is the Fortran 90 parallel programming model. Okay, now just we are featuring the language. Okay, what basically it is mentioned over there, it is quite simple language. Okay, so the any language, when we are learning initially, any language is having their own syntaxes, their own initialization, declaration, variable declaration, array declaration, okay, methods. Okay, and again we are learning the same thing over here. So very simple task, very simple stuff is there. Okay, nothing tedious about this thing. So the features is that if in Fortran 90, if you want to declare an array, the array will be declared something like this. Okay, the word integer, okay, which is a data type. You are already aware about what is the data type, followed by immediate comma, then there is a space, and then there is again a dimension in uppercase. Okay, followed by in the parenthesis brackets, okay, in the parenthesis brackets of some size, okay, then there is a scope resolution operator followed by a comma b comma c. That means this indicates, this indicates the that A is an array of set 5 whose size is 5. Okay, B is again an array whose size is 5, and C is again an array whose size is 5. Okay, so this becomes a single dimensional array. Here in this case, it is written over there. Okay, it means A, B, C are this one dimensional or single dimensional array of size 5. While, okay, if you want to, if you can declare, if you want to declare the multi-dimensional array, that can be declared again in an identical way. Okay, by defining here the size in this way, in the parenthesis brackets 5 comma 5. Okay, and again the scope resolution operator. After the scope resolution operator, whatever the things which are mentioning, it is considered as what the variable, okay, by this particular programming language. So this is the way that everything is going to be written only and only in the uppercase. That is the Fortran, that is the feature of the Fortran anti-parallel programming language. You are not supposed to write anything in the lowercase. Okay, so this is one of the way through which we can define the array in the Fortran 90 parallel programming language, right? In this way, you can define the single dimensional and the multi-dimensional array. Okay, everything is described in the notes if you could properly go through it, right? Now the next thing is that how to initialize the things. See the thing, the initialization of an array is being done by using this in this way. A is equal to, okay, then the parenthesis brackets, and in that we are operating on the immediate forward slash. It is called as forward slash, and then there's some set of elements. Likewise, when we are initializing an array in a typical C programming language, okay, this same way of the initialization, but the syntax is only different. Okay, the only difference is in the syntax. So if I want to initialize the array A with some size of 5, and I want to initialize the array elements, initialization means passing the array elements, right, by the time when we are defining the array. Okay, so size is 5, so 5 comma 6 comma 7 comma 8 comma 9 indicates that the array A is being initialized. The array A is being initialized by these 5 elements. So you have to remember the syntax when uh, we are writing down the things about these parallel programming languages, right? So genuinely, what we are discussing, it is mentioned in your syllabus, or what mentioned is by author. Okay. So this is the declaration and the initialization of an array. So the one of the most important parts. Then coming down, okay, here it is written, the Fortran 90 allows 90 different types of operations or the instructions that are to be performed on the arrays. Well, Fortran 77 is been executing only 77 different type of instructions. Now we are not interested in that part. Give 77 instructions. Okay, perhaps just going a bit ahead. Okay, again it supports the arithmetic, relational, logical operators. Okay, wherein which can be used to perform some sort of operations. So usually how to write down the operations or how to use these operators. Okay, let us take out some of the examples. That if you want to uh, write an instruction, okay, or any of the instruction in the programming language, then they likewise, okay, this is how we are writing in the typical C programming language. In C programming languages, we are usually using what the variables with the lower case. So this is one of the way how we are defining C of I is equal to A of I plus B of I. I is nothing but what? The the array component which is mentioned there in the loop. But if you want to define this particular thing, okay, which is if you want to access the array elements in C programming language, this is how we are defining it, okay, by using the for loop. But this is how we are actually writing down the things when we are using it in the Fortran 77. So simply you can write down the statement C is equal to A plus B, and we are having the A array elements, B array elements, and when you simply add the array elements, we are getting a new array of C, okay, which is summing up the array elements of A and B. Okay, now next instruction is that if you want to compare two arrays, okay, A might be a variable or might be an array. Okay, you can declare there a variable and you can again declare there an array. Okay, we'll discuss the same part just immediate after this. Okay, so if you want to compare the two array elements, so then in that case, what basically we are doing, okay, A dot eq means equal to dot b, means that whether all the elements of array A is matching with all the array elements of the B or not. Okay, so it is the description is mentioned over here that all the elements of array A will be matched against the array of the B. If found to be the same, value return as true, else the value return is what is false. Okay, if the two arrays are same, the value return is to be true. अगर वो boolean में तो return क्या करेगा 1, else 0, right? So again one of the instruction, okay, instead this is how we are writing down the loop by using the C programming language to perform any of the increment operation. So if you want to add 1 in an array element, okay, then this is how we are writing it down. C is equal to A plus 1. Okay, so Fortran 90 is a quite powerful language as compared to what kind of programming languages what were there by the time in the past with this parallel programming language. Okay, so suppose if a programmer is wishing to perform the operations on the subset of elements, okay, wherein likewise why I'm calling the Fortran 90 as the passive and the uh, powerful programming language, because here is an example that if you want to find out a square root, okay, of any variable, okay, or any number, then in C programming language there is no such function. Okay, the C is the first programming language which was introduced. Okay, and then it is called as mother of all the languages, and later the rest of the other programming languages were introduced. So let us take an example that if you want to find out a square root of any number in C programming language, what you're supposed to write, you have to define a function. Okay, a user defined function, because the user defined function is absent in C programming language. Okay, so in that case, if we want to find out the square root, so simply in Fortran parallel programming language, what we are supposed to do, we have to simply mention sqrt followed by the a. So the square root of all the elements, or if it is an array, then the square root of all the elements will be identified and stored in the array a. Or if a is a variable, then the square root of that particular independent only one number is been identified and stored in the value. So perhaps that is the reason why I'm calling the Fortran 90 is supposed to be the powerful language, because the functions are automatically or defined somewhere down the line. sorry, in the user. Hello, am I audible to all? Am I audible to all? Uh, Start the things off again, right? So just be there. Okay. So let me take a spotlight. Okay. So this is what we're talking about. That this is why the Fortran 90 is considered as the powerful programming language. Now again, uh, there are the conditional statement that does exist in the Fortran 90 parallel programming language. That if you want to find out conditional, or if you want to find out or execute the things on conditional basis, then there are some syntaxes, okay, which is mentioned over there. Here is an example. So where, okay, is the condition, okay, the logical expression means the condition, okay, the statements, elsewhere the second statement, and endwhere. Okay, so this is in typical C programming language, instead of writing a where, we are using if statement, if else, okay, else if, okay, or nested if else. So here in this case, uh, instead of using the if else, it is using the where statement. Okay, but the execution of the if else statement in the C programming language is identically same as that of the syntax which is mentioned over here. So instead of using the if, here the Fortran 90 programming language uses the where followed by the condition. Okay, then there is a else statement, and again there is a condition, and then the end statement. Okay, so this is just the introductory part to learn the Fortran 90 parallel programming language. Okay, so after learning the components, we have to just execute one program, okay, which is mentioned there in the syllabus. Okay, I know that some of these things are directly coming up into your way, okay, and you might, it is difficult for you to understand the things, but considering the fact that all of you have done the project and you are already aware about the fact that you are knowing the basics, that is what is the declaration of variables, initialization of the variables, okay, then again the declaration of an array, initialization of array, execution of an array. Okay, so by using the same facts, the only thing is that each and every parallel programming language does have these things, but the difference is in the way of the syntaxes, what actually they are using, right? So there is a problem statement which is given to us, and this particular problem statement we have to solve it by using what, by using the Fortran 90 parallel programming language. That means in order to solve this particular formulation, okay, in order to solve this particular formulation, we have to implement a parallel Fortran 90 parallel program, okay, which is quite simple in nature. Okay, so we have already discussed the things of, and considering the fact that all of you have made your projects, so you are already having the basics of ideas. Okay, so the problem statement is to calculate the variance. Okay, and this is the formula of a variance which is given to us. No, what is the reason behind considering only this particular problem statement? Because every time in the university examinations, whatever the question is being asked, it is based on this particular formula only. So it is not possible for us to consider all n number of statements and write down the programs. Instead of that, it is better to take only one problem statement, take an idea from this statement, and then you can move ahead. So this is the formula. Okay, summation of I is equal to 1 to the n. Okay, and there is the formula in the brackets. Xi is the array elements. When we are having the set of elements of array of some size, might be having 10 elements, might be 50, might be 100 elements, minus mean. Mean is the value which is already known to you. Mean is nothing but what, the average. Okay, the difference in the square of these two components divided by the n. This is the formula. Okay, this is the complete formulation of a variance for which we have to write the Fortran 90 parallel program. And mean is calculated as summation of I is equal to n. I is equal to 1 means all the elements, okay, all the elements of an array x. Xi means all the elements, x0 plus xn, okay, divided by n. N means the total number of elements in an array. This is how they are getting what, the mean. And when we are getting the mean value, mean value is going to be a constant one, okay, which is to be subtracted from each and every array elements. This mean value is subtracted from each and every array element, getting an independent subtracting value, means xi minus mean. And in order to get the square, we have to do the squaring of these two elements. That means xi minus mean into xi minus mean, and then followed by divided by the n. N means the total number of elements in an array. The capital N means the total number of elements in an array. So this is the formula for the variance which is given to us, and uh, we are writing the Fortran 90 parallel program in order to sort, or in order to solve, not sort, in order to solve this particular formulation of variance. So just moving down, okay, which is already been given in the notes. Okay, so initially we have been involved in some sort of the initializations and the declaration part. Okay, so any program when we are writing, initially when any program begins, all of you know that there we have to go through the constant process, that is to make some initialization and the declaration. So we are declaring here with a variable n which is having some size. Okay, let us say here in this case 10,000, or you can take 100 as well. It really doesn't matter. The size belongs as that of the choice of the program. So it is not mandatory that you always should define the 10,000. So there is a variable n, okay, which is having a data type integer, and this is the syntax. So integer, comma, this is the parameter. Okay, integer, comma, parameter. Okay, scope resolution is the operator. That means whatever the written after the scope resolution is considered as a variable. It might be a regular variable or might be array variable, right? So n parameter means it is identifying that it is the independent variable, not an array variable, right? So n having some value written over there. Then in the next step, okay, we are defining an array x. Okay, just don't forget this particular formula. जो formula है ऊपर में, just keep an eye on this formula so that it would be easier for you to do the things, right? So yes, it might be visible to you in a better way now, because you need to keep the formula in front of you so that you understand the things, right? So okay, okay, so uh, let me make a change. Um, yes, let me make a change. And we have made the change. So to keep the formula in front of your eyes so that the thing should be easier for you to understand, right? So the formula of the variance is given to you, and accordingly we are plotting up the values in the program, right? So it would be easier for you. Right. So we have defined the variable n, and here it is written as for the parameter. Parameter indicates it is the single variable. Next is the integer dimension of size n. Remember that the size of n is already been declared over here, right? So n is already something value, 10,000 here in this case. The size of an array has been defined, followed by x. Means the x is the single dimensional variable whose size is 10,000. That is what it means, right? Now in the next step, there is again one more data type. Okay, so there are different data types, okay, which is as per the different set of programming languages. So there is one data type called as what, the real, which is having the same attributes as that of the integer data type. The only thing is that integer data type, we cannot hold the decimal values. So in real data type, we can hold the decimal values. Okay, so the difference which is there in the int and the float variable, same difference is does exist in between the integer and the real variable over here. Okay, so the real is again a data type with some dimensions n. Okay, and immediate next to that there is a scope resolution, which is giving me what the difference and the difference square. Okay, again two more variables what we are defining it over here. Okay, now immediate next to that again we are defining a real variable with a mean and a variance. Okay, so we are done with the initialization and the declaration part in the first four steps. Okay, now immediate next to that, what is required is to execute a loop. Why? Because we want to access the array elements, right? So in order to access the array elements from 1 to how much, n. Okay, 1 to n, and n is what, the 10,000. Okay, so all the in order to access the array elements, okay, So we are writing down the statement as what? X is equal to, in the uh, parenthesis brackets, okay, I comma I is equal to 1 comma n, means this is representing what? The loops. Why? Because arrays cannot be accessed without the loops, right? Now then comes the important part, okay, that mean is, what is mean? Here it is written, it is the summation of all I is equal to 1 till n xi minus xi divided by n. Xi means all the array elements. We are summing up all the elements. Summation means what? Summing all the array elements divided by n. This is exactly what we are doing. Sum of x. Sum is the function which is inbuilt defined over there. Okay. Likewise, I have already taught you that the Fortran 90 parallel programming language is supposed to be the most superior, most, and the uh, a powerful programming language, because these functions have already been defined in the parallel programming language. The only thing the programmer has to do is to incorporate these functions, okay, and get rid of the things, right? So the sum of x of all the elements, x is an array, you already know that, okay, from 1 to n, okay, divided by n, that will give me what? The mean. Okay, now we are done with this part. We have calculated the mean because we want to incorporate a value of mean over here. So initially we have to calculate the value of mean, and we are done with that, right? Now next part is, again, we have to calculate what the difference, and difference is what? Xi means the each and every, the difference between the each and every array element and in between the mean value. So it is the xi minus mean. Okay, so difference is equal to x minus mean. Okay, yeah, x means again the array element. Okay, x contains the array element which is having each and every array element, and we are calculating the difference of each and every element with the mean value. Okay, let me tell you, the value of mean is going to be the constant one. Okay, getting my point, right? Now after, immediately next to that, when we are getting this value, okay, it is very easy for us to get the squared values for this. So x minus mean multiplied by x minus mean. Instead, okay, you can write down difference square is equal to di double f into di double f. That will also do. Okay, that will also do. Now when you are done with this part, okay, xi minus mean square, okay, and then we are interested in calculating what the variance, and variance is giving me what? Sum, and sum of all these values, because we, here it is what? Summation. Okay, here it is what? Summation. So I is equal to 1, summation of I is equal to 1 till n. We are getting what? The summation of all these values. So sum of difference squares, yes, this value, this one is the value which is coming over here. Okay, difference square divided by n, right? So after this, simply what we are supposed to do, we have to put down the things, okay, in the format of, in the particular format of 90. We are arranging the things. Here it is written as on the 11th number statement 90. Why it is 90? Because we want to arrange the set of final output as if in the format of what? The Fortran 90, because we are learning what? Fortran 90 parallel programming language. So wherein you are arranging the outputs in the desired format, right over there, just before putting this word format, preceded by there is a 90, okay, which always should have been used by the programmer, because if a programmer is incorporating the same programming, the Fortran 77 programming language, then instead of 90, here the 77 should be written, because you should make, as a programmer, things to be understood or understandable to the system as well on which you are compiling the programming, because the compiler for the Fortran 90 programming language and so for the Fortran 77 is the same, right? So just to make clear about these things, okay, simply what you're supposed to do, you have to write a statement. 90 means Fortran 90 format, you have to arrange the outputs in this format. Okay, variance, the value of the variance, followed by, okay, the some variable I is the variable, okay, which ends. Now simply when we are getting the values, okay, which is stored over here in this variable variance, which has been defined over here, you have to define here, right? So we have to print again 90 format, okay, followed by the variance. That means whatever the output that you have obtained, the same output would get printed in the format of Fortran 90, in the format of Fortran 90. Otherwise, if a programmer is using Fortran 77, then in that case, the value is for the Fortran 70. The value over here is Fortran 77, right? So this 90 and 77 represents the format values. because the formatting for the Fortran 90 and the Fortran 77 is different. So this is the program what we have discussed, which is used to calculate the value of variance. Now, usually the favorite question for the university exam is write a short note on the Fortran 90 programming language. So in that case, you should be in a position to describe the whole and soul thing which is given there in the notes, right from the parallel programming model. Okay, nobody gives you the problem statement. Okay, that this is the problem statement. Please solve it by the parallel programming language by incorporating the parallel programming languages Fortran 90. So you should be smart in this case because the favorite question of the university exam is write short note on Fortran 90 parallel programming language. And this question would be asked in and around about 6 to 7 marks every single time in every question paper, whether it is a question paper of a summer or a question paper of a winter exams. So this is the formulation which we have converted, okay, into this program, and this program style is the Fortran 90. Remember that you should not be forgetting to write down the things in the format in which you want the output to be get generated, and that is what the Fortran 90. Okay, here it is mentioned 90 format and print 90 variance followed by the end. End statement should be there because it represents this is where the program ends. Okay, so we are done with the first parallel programming languages. Okay, now there are three more again parallel programming language, and all three of them we are not going to take it today. Okay, instead only one will take it, and rest of the two will take it tomorrow again. Okay, tomorrow again we are having our lecture at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So in NCubC is the next parallel programming language. Herein we are not executing any of the programs, only we have been going through some of the theoretical aspects of the NCubC parallel programming language. So why it is the next parallel programming language which is introduced immediately next or after the Fortran 90 parallel programming language. So the first language which is introduced, it is the Fortran 77. Next language which is introduced, it is a newer version of it, that is Fortran 90. And next to that, there is a NCubC parallel programming language. Now, as the name suggests, you are already knowing the meaning of what the cube. Okay, cube means it is the square. Okay, squares of elements which are connected with each other. Okay, and we are having the edges and the vertices. We'll see the structure. Okay, the reason behind it is called as what the NCubC, because it is an extension to the C language that runs on NCubC machine. That means the whatever the programming is being done, it is being done only through the C programming language. Okay, so it is nothing but a C programming language which is having some of the modifications, very slightly modifications. So NCubC and the C programming languages, they are 95% similar in nature in their syntaxes. Some of the functions additionally which is defined over there in NCubC programming language, which makes it only a different programming language than the C programming language. But otherwise, apart from that, NCubC and the C programming language is supposed to be identically same in nature. I'm saying that 95% of the things are same or common here in this case, right? So it is an extension to the C programming language, okay, which is executed on the virtualization of a hypercube computer, which is having the n node, n dimensional hypercube computer directly connected to the n adjacent nodes. Okay, now instead of going through the theoretical parts, I want to explain all the theoretical part, okay, on a structure, because this structure is going to be very important structure for me. Okay, so this is the structure of NCubC programming language, a virtual structure. Okay, now this diagram which is drawn over here, it is nothing but what the cubical diagram, a cube which is having some of the dimensions. So if you could count the total number of nodes means the vertices, not the edges, vertices, it is the nodes. So it is 1 2, okay, then 3 4, then 5 6 and 7 and 8. So total 8 nodes are there in the particular cube. Okay, the size of the cube is always variable. It is not mandatory that each and every time the size of the cube should be appearing to be identically same in nature. Okay, now here in this case, what should be the size, or what is the size of the cube, or the dimension of the cube? The dimension of the cube is 3, because everything is always been talked. Okay, everything is always been talked in parallel programming language as if in the form of 2 raised to the power n. Okay, so the total number of nodes which are there, it is how much? 8. So 2 raised to power how much makes it 8? it is 3, right? So the dimension, you can see over here graphically, the subcube is having a dimension of what? 3. Why it is 3? Because the total number of nodes is how much? 8, and 2 raised to the power n. We have to replace and calculate the value of n. So 2 raised to the power how much is 8? So the 2 raised to the power 3 is 8. So that is the reason why the dimension of this particular cube is what? 3. Suppose there are 16 nodes. Okay, suppose there are 16 nodes of a cube. Then instead of having the 16 nodes, how much is the dimension? It is 2 raised to the power how much? Makes it 16. 2 raised to the power 4 makes it what? 16. And we'll go by this one. Okay, and as we are increasing the value of L, we are increasing the dimensions. With the dimension, we are increasing the size of or the structure of the cube as well. And more is the size, and this more is the size, more is the size, more number of processes are there, and more number of processes means faster is the execution. But you already know that in unit number 3 we have discussed that if you are if you are incorporating multiple number of processes in the memory, then it is consuming some more memory space, and that leads to what? The space complexity. Okay, so just you have to make sure that before introducing the n number of processes in the memory, you should be sure that how many number of processes you want to incorporate or create in the memory space, right? So this is the cube, and each and every cube is having the initial node, left hand side bottommost node, which is the standard left hand side bottommost node, as called as what? The zeroth node. And this zeroth node is also called as the root node, and this zeroth node is also called as what? The parent. Okay, now as far as what the processes are concerned, you are aware about the fact that the processes are of generally the processes are categorized into two different types. Okay, the first type is what? The child process, and second type is what? The parent process. Now parent process is the supervisor process or the master process or the leader process, which keeps an uh, eye and the monitoring on the rest of the other child process. And instead, the child processes are those processes which are actually carrying out the execution. Likewise, if you can take an example of a college hierarchy, okay, we are having a principal, and then followed by we are having the rest of the different departments. Okay, and each and every department is having the departmental heads, departmental HODs. Okay, so in that case, if you could consider this hierarchy, the principal is supposed to be the leader, the supervisor, means here it is the group node, right? And the other departments are the actual executing processes. Okay, it is not the principal who teaches the student, it is the departments who teaching the students. So the department is nothing but the child processes. All the departments are nothing but the child processes, which are denoted over here by all the rest of the other nodes apart from the root node or the parent node. And this root node is the supervisor node, is a principal node, okay, which keeps on monitoring and keep an eye always on the other processes, right? So the thing is here in this case, okay, no need to go into the too much of the detail. So whenever the process execution begins, we are talking about what? The parallel programming language. Okay, and you already know that we have already talked two of the programming language. First is the MPI programming language, and next is the Fortran 90 parallel programming language. So here again, this language acts similar to that of the MPI parallel programming language. Okay, but it works on the methodology of a cube. So anytime when any of the process begins the execution, or the parallel process begins their execution, it is the uh, principal process or the root node, okay, who receives the complete task T, and this process is responsible for the division of the task amongst the given rest of the set of processes. That means out of the total 8 processes or 8 nodes, there are actual only in 7 nodes which is carrying out the execution, while one node is totally dedicated for the supervision or for the monitoring purpose. So the task T, when it is received by the node, root node or the principal node, it will divide the task among the 7 equal components, because how many total number of processes are there apart from this process? 7 only. So it will divide the total task T divided by 7, and once the equal division of the task is being done, it will distribute all the process to all the rest of the other nodes. Okay, now what is the responsibility of the other nodes? So they will carry out their respective executions, Suppose this node has addition, this node has subtraction, this node has multiplication, this node has a division, this node has copy, this node has delete, and this node has an insert operation to perform. Okay, so they'll perform their respective operations, and when they are done, they'll returning the results to the root node. And root node means the principal node, with retrieving all the results at a glance and redirecting these results, okay, to the request from where they came in, where the request from where the request get in or came in. Okay, in this way, all the methodologies, okay, are distributing, and these arrows are showing that it is the direction, okay, that how they are connecting and how they are communicating with each other. Because when all the processes are forming one cube, okay, all the processes when they are forming one cube, that means all the processes must be communicating with each other. Because if they are not, then there is a miscommunication, okay, and you already know that what miscommunication leads to. So we have to be careful about all these things, okay. So and the arrow shows the directions, okay, through which they are returning the results back to this zero node. All the directions showing are getting intending towards what is zero node only. Why? Because zero node is that node which is uh, uh, communicating or controlling rest of the other nodes. So whatever the instructions are being given to the other nodes are always and always being originated from the zeroth node, root node. You can call it as master node, principal node. Okay, okay, and it is giving the instructions to all the other nodes. Instead, when upon receiving the tasks, okay, each and every node what is basically does, okay, they will perform their executions and return the results back to the zero node. Remember always the example when you are learning about the NCUBE parallel programming language, about the principal of a college and the rest of the departments, because all the tasks, okay, get into the college, it is only through that door of a principal. Because if any of the task or any of the activities that has to be carried out, the respective departments has to be informed. Who leads it, or who instructs it? It is the principal who instructs it, and the principal takes it and pass on the task to the other departments. Okay, so rest of the department will do their tasks, likewise teaching, conducting the extracurricular activities, gathering, okay, departmental events and all. And there again, after performing their respective task, each and every department is returning back and reporting back to the supervisor node or the principal node, which is the zero node over here. Okay, so this perhaps it is called as what the NCUBE model. And don't forget to mention the directions when you are drawing a cube. Okay, so it is a suggestion to all of you is that when you are explaining the NCUBE parallel programming language, okay, uh, draw the cube of dimension 3. Dimension 3 means 2 raised to the power 3. Dimension 4 means 2 raised to the power 4. Dimension 5 means 2 raised to the power 5. Okay, because the diagrams are just going to be easier in that case. 2 raised to the power 2 is very small. Okay, 2 to the power 2 is just thing, but it is very small, and that would not again explaining the things quite properly. So instead of when you are in a position to explain the example with an NCUBE parallel programming language, so in that case what is suggested is that you have to draw a cube of dimension 3. Dimension 3 means 2 raised to the power 3. Dimension 4 means 2 raised to the power 5. 2 raised to the power 4. Okay, just don't forget all these things. These are the basics. Okay, so whatever the discussion what we have already carried out over here, okay, on these two programming languages, okay, that is the these three programming languages, that is MPI, Fortran 90, and the NCUBE parallel programming language is been done. Because unit 4 is totally all about what the parallel programming languages. Now, how the nodes are communicating with each other. Okay, just a part of a 2 to 3 minutes. How the nodes are communicating with each other, because initially in the discussion I mentioned that all the nodes are communicating with each other. Okay, so how the nodes are communicating with each other. So there are some functions, core functions, which has is been additionally present in NCUBE programming language, which makes this language as a bit different language than the typical C programming language. And these core functions are not present in what the C programming language. the typical C programming language. So these four functions are, okay, we have to study these four functions, that who am I, because there are n number of nodes connected to each other, okay, and each and every node must be identifying their identities, whether I am a child process, whether I am parent process, what kind of task that has to be executed by me. So this function, each and every function, when each and every node, when they are just getting activated, okay, these uh, these functions, each and every nodes is executing this function, who am I, to know the exact status of himself. Okay, next function is the nread. Now nread means the continuous communication is being going on. Okay, as you can see the diagram, okay, the arrow shows the communication. So each and every node is communicating with each other. Okay, so nread means it is the function that is being executed by the node when a single node is receiving the message from all the other set of nodes. Okay, from all the other set of nodes. Getting the point? So nread is the execution, is the uh, function or a method which is to be executed by that particular node who is receiving the messages. Likewise, at the end, when the root node is receiving the message from all the nodes, so it is not in a position, because one node can receive only one message or read only one message at a time, but there are n number of nodes. So if a node has to read multiple number of messages at a time, then that particular node will execute the nread function. Who am I gives the exact status of that particular node, that who am I, whether I am a parent process, parent node, child node, for purpose for which the node has to be originated. And nread is used to what? Receive n number of messages at a time. Okay, opposite to that, nwrite means is to send n number of messages at a time to all the other nodes or some selected nodes. Okay, nwrite can be used to send the messages only to multiple selected nodes. I said multiple selected nodes. Now just above to that there is n broadcast. N broadcast means n number of the messages has to be broadcasted to n number of the nodes. N broadcast means to broadcast a message to all the other nodes. Likewise, if a principal node or the root node has to send a message to all the other subnodes or the child processes, then it will be using n broadcast. But if the same root node wants to inform only selected one or two nodes, then it will use the nwrite method. So the reason behind learning the N3C programming language, okay, the program is not just not been discussed because the N3C programming language is same as that of what the typical C programming language. But apart from these following four functions, these four functions you will not surely be finding in the typical C programming language, but instead you will be finding these functions in the N3C programming language, right? So with this, we have studied MPI programming language, Fortran programming language, and N3C programming language, right? So in unit number 4, okay, the part B, which we have started, okay, out of the 4 programming languages, 2 of the programming languages which we have already done, that is Fortran 90 and N3C, okay, and 2 more programming languages are remaining, which will be covering these 2 programming languages in the tomorrow's lecture. Okay, so now out of these 4 languages, surely you will find a question of 13 marks or on any 2 programming language. Surely there would be a question of 13 marks or any 2 programming language. जैसे कि फर्स्ट कौन सा हो गया हमारा फोर्ट्रैन 90 हो गया, दूसरा हो गया एनक्यूबसी, थर्ड वन इज ओकैन जो हम कल पढ़ेंगे, एंड देन सी लिंडा जो फोर्थ वाला है. Okay, so all the out of the 4 programming languages, sure shot 110%, okay, on any 2 parallel programming language you will find a question of 13 marks on any 2. So it is your moral responsibility to prepare these 4 parallel programming languages very seriously. Getting the point? Okay, so we are done with the today's lecture. Okay, if you are having any doubts and difficulties, you can ask me now, or otherwise we'll stop and we'll continue rest of the things in the tomorrow's lecture, because tomorrow we are going to study the OCamp, parallel programming language, and C Linda. Okay, and once we are doing a discussions on the topics, okay, go through the lecture notes. Okay, because the language is very difficult. I've prepared the notes, okay, in the simplest of my own language, so that you would able to understand the things very easily, right? So go through the notes, and I'm telling you that the circuit satisfiability test, first topic, sure shot, you'll find a question of minimum 8 marks. Okay, and the parallel programming languages. Okay, the parallel programming languages means two of them we have already discussed, that is Fortran 90 and the Encube C, and again two more are coming up tomorrow. Okay, and once we are done with this, okay, we are ready to face the question of 13 marks on unit number 4, when we are done with the remaining two topics, that is the OCamp and C Linda parallel programming language, that we will see tomorrow. Any questions, any doubts, any questions? Am I audible? Okay.